Joining me now with more, Sean Spicer, Communications Director for the RNC. Sean, it's good to see you.
Thank you, Craig. Good afternoon.
You guys,
happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day to you as well. Good to see you in your green. You guys, you had a task force to speak with people all over the country in order to try to figure out how the RNC could improve. What was the most common gripe that you found that people had in the wake of the 2012 election?
Well, as you pointed out, we spoke to 51,000 people throughout the country, and frankly, there was no common theme, as there was no magic bullet that said if you did this, you would have won. I think what we found was there's a lot of things. There's some messaging piece, there's a mechanics piece, there's a data piece, there's a ground game operation piece, all of which we have to work on to be a better party and to grow. So we're going to look at, we recognized all of those areas are problems, and we're going to present a series of solutions tomorrow morning on how the party can address each of them and grow.
You said messaging there was one of the problems, but we heard from a number of folks, including Senator Marco Rubio last week at CPAC, and he says that messaging is not a major problem.
Well, I think what we can all agree upon, I think what Senator Rubio is talking about, is the fact that the principles of our party are strong, are sound. The way in which we communicate them sometimes isn't. I think, as Chairman Priebus points out quite often, I think sometimes we get caught up in the math war. We try to convince people that, you know, debt is bad and balanced budgets are good and deficits don't make sense. But we forget to connect those policies to why people actually should care about them, in terms of that they lead to greater economic growth and more jobs and things like that. And I think sometimes we forget in our messaging to connect to, frankly, the heart, if you will, why people actually think that you care about what you're doing because it connects to them in some way. And that's an area that I think we have to do better. There are some messengers that do better than others, yeah. But that is definitely an area that we need to look at our policies and say, how do we communicate them in a way that might be more welcoming, more optimistic, and more positive.
One major initiative that the RNC is planning to launch coming out of tomorrow's report apparently is this technological initiative. I know that you've hired a chief of staff whose main priority is to get the RNC up to snuff with your competitors. What specific ways are you planning to enhance your data infrastructure?
It's a great question. I think you got to give credit where credit is due. The Obama campaign did a fabulous job of utilizing data analytics, social scientists, and things like that. We've got to do the same thing, frankly, Craig. That means hiring a chief technology officer, bringing in some of the best and brightest minds from not just in D.C. and in politics, but frankly from Silicon Valley and from other places in the tech world that can apply what they know in this industry to politics. It's an area that we have to do better in. And that the chairman's committed to, both in data, digital, and areas of technology. We've got to do better in all of those areas.
Here's the thing. As I hear you talk about some of these things, I remember conversations that I had with you, that I had with RNC Priebus and some other folks, you know, 6-7 months ago, and some of the same things were being said, the gap in the ground game, the technological gap. Why weren't you able to fix some of these things sooner?
Well, I think the foremost reason is this. Frankly, we were comparing ourselves to ourselves. We looked at 08 and 04, and when it comes to something like the ground game, we did do better, not only than 08, but better than 08 and 04 combined. And we thought, hey, that's fantastic. The problem is the Obama campaign was doing even better than that. We had continued to measure our own progress against ourselves. And frankly, that's, as we look back now, we say that was a bad benchmark. And so what we've got to do is, while we made strides, there's no question, we made more voter contacts in the history of the party. We did a better job in terms of door knocking and voter contacts. It wasn't enough, and it wasn't as good as it can be. So I think sometimes you can say to yourself, yeah, we improved, we did better, but it wasn't good enough. And that's like any team that may score, you know, more runs than ever before. But if your opponent scores more than that, then frankly, that's not good enough, and that's where we are right now.
Sean Spicer of the RNC giving us a preview of sorts of that autopsy set to come out tomorrow. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Craig.
So,